takes a great deal of courage to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends.
If I murdered someone, she's the person I'd call to help me drag the corpse across the living room floor. She's my person.
I stepped up. She's my friend, and she needed help. If I had to, I'd pee on any one of you. Welcome to the Best Friends Playbook podcast.
With your hosts, Crystal and
Alicia. We've known each other for over 27 years, and we're here to share our wisdom on friendships in film, TV, and literature.
So grab some coffee, our favorite, and get cozy. I love these two. They're so cute.
They're also like another great comedic relief in the films besides Merry and Pippin.
Yes, they are. Especially Gimli.
Oh, God.
He's extremely funny.
He's the best.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. This was a tough one for me. They're like characters that trying to figure out, I don't know, their arcs, their similarities or differences. I mean, some of them are pretty easy, and then sometimes it was like trying to crack a code here. So I'm going to try my best. I put that these are two extremely proud warriors of their different races that come together for a journey to save Middle-earth, but find an unexpected friend along the way. I'd venture to guess that neither has ever had a friend of each other's race before, so they are very hesitant and unsure about each other. Along the way, they learn not only to deal with each other, but to find a comfort in their presence, look to one another for help, and find joy in their differences.
To add on top of that, I still need to read the Silmarillion, but I did, some Wicca Lord of the Rings pedia digging. And in the Silmarillion, which is basically like a history book for all the Lord of the Rings books out there, it basically talks about why elves and dwarves hate each other. Because it's clear in the film that they do not like each other. Very long story short, the elves and the dwarves decided to work together to build mines and dig in them. And the dwarves were going so far down into the mines, they realized that the elves were actually the best workers. The dwarf king stole some of the elves to make them his slaves. And when the elf king found this out, he started killing dwarves.
What?
So, yeah.
Dang.
I know, right?
That's intense. Was that like a long time before?
Yeah, because it's like
happened?
the dark, I don't even know what age it was in. But yeah, it's way before Lord of the Rings. And then it's hard to know how far because obviously elves and dwarves live really long compared to any other race, especially elves.
Yeah, I know elves do. I didn't know dwarves did.
They do, yeah.
How long do they live? Well, that's a dumb question. I don't want to know the answer because I don't know how long elves live either.
I don't actually know either.
Like, quote unquote,
I
immortal.
do know that I think Gimli was like in his 400s.
No way, really?
When he wanted to, because he was supposed to go on the Hobbit adventure, and he was told he was too young.
No fucking way.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Let me pull this up really quick so I'm not
shocking.
wrong about all the other stuff I've
You're
said on this podcast.
blowing my mind.
Gimli was the son of Gloin and the nephew of Oin. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Both former companions of Bilbo Baggins. He was a remote descendant of Durin the Deathless, father of the first house of the Dwarven people. Never mind, he was not 400. I was so wrong. He was 62, but that was considered too young to go on the Hobbit adventure.
Oh, so he was 62 then, but in Lord of the Rings, he's got to be, like 100? Is that like 40 years later? Probably? At least. Even longer.
139.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but isn't it funny that 62 years old is too young to go on an adventure?
You're still a baby. You're only 62.
Yeah, you don't know life.
That's awesome.
So,
I'm learning so much today, guys. It's
and
exciting.
A hint in Lord of the Rings that the elves and the dwarves were working together in the mines is when you go to the doors of Moria, the only way to open the door is to answer the riddle in Elvish.
Oh, that makes so much sense now.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
I never did either.
So yeah, the hate and the disrespect, for each race is really strong. And when they go to the council for the ring, they don't want either of the races to take the ring. And then when, Frodo declares himself the ring bearer, they both decide to go to protect the ring. They create a bond over this. So like you said, they create a friendship over this whole thing. And I feel like in these life or death moments, they are able to put their, egos and prides into a form of like competition on who's the better warrior. Aragorn is like a great person between them to help them sort of, stay bonded and grow, especially because Aragorn and Legolas are really close.
Yeah, he's like, I feel like Aragorn's like the main friend, and then he has like these two side friends, but then the two side friends become friends too over time.
He like introduced them.
Especially after Aragorn like almost dies, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I feel like, Tolkien and PJ created and showed a great example of two people who have great hatred for each other, only due to history and upbringing to realize at the end of the day, we're all the same and our differences are what make us unique.
I do like that. That's beautiful.
All right.
Beautifully said.
Okay, we're talking similarities.
Yes.
Extremely competitive, right? I mean, constantly they're driving each other to like bigger and better heights with their warriorness. They're killing other people, not themselves, killing orcs and Uruk-hai and
goblins,
crap like that.
All those nasty creatures.
Yeah. And even with the drinking game, like They're like always competitive. Like, it's so funny because Gimli's like, oh, fine, there's something I can like beat him at. Yay, drinking. It's going to be great. Whoever stands last wins, you know? And then he doesn't work. But anyways,
yeah,
that's like a great example of their competitiveness.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like also one is that they live and experience life differently because they live longer than, you know, any of the other races. So I feel like they have that in common, that death and all those things affect them differently because they probably see so many people die in their lives.
I could see that. And it kind of makes sense because when you, throughout the movies, you see Legolas, and when he experiences death or loss, he doesn't show that much emotion. He's very stoic, doesn't show a lot in his face. You can tell it's all kind of inward. Gimli, he always expresses a lot of emotion in his stuff. So they deal with it in different ways, but that makes sense now because I didn't realize that they were both like lived extra long.
Yeah.
I only thought elves did, so. Really obvious one is that they don't like or trust each other.
No.
Each other's races, not just them.
Yeah.
Just like dwarves don't like elves don't like dwarves for the obvious reason that Allie just explained earlier, but that's a huge similarity for them.
One similarity, which is kind of like what makes them both nerdy, is they're both connected to the earth in different ways. Like,
True.
Gimli gets turned on by like caves and taverns and mines.
Yeah.
And Legolas is like trees.
See? So Gimli's
beautiful.
like dirt and Legolas is like plants.
Yeah.
They're like meant to be together.
Yep.
That's adorable. They each believe that they are the superior race, I feel like. Right?
Oh, yeah. That's
like Legolas is he's very humble. Like he doesn't come out, you know, immediately and say like, hey, elves are the best, you know, like he's a pretty humble guy. But Gimli's like full on, like dwarves are fucking awesome, man. They're the best. And
his dwarf pride is so loud.
it's so loud, and it just like makes it really obvious that they really do think that they are superior to each other as the time goes on. So
yeah, definitely.
That's a big one. And then the other thing I put as their similarity is that they're both not afraid to speak their minds.
That's
and they
true.
believe they are correct, you know. As I've expressed, it's a little different. Legolas is much more like, he's not about confrontation. He doesn't come out right away and say a lot of these things, right? It's usually pulled out of him by Gimli because Gimli is so much more direct, like, oh, you're an elf, you know, you suck.
Yeah.
Like this. And then he's like, no, what are you talking about? I'm awesome.
Yeah.
So,
They're also kind of like the odd ones out of the group in the fellowship. The hobbits have each other and the men have each other, and they're like the only two from different races, and they're like alone in the group.
that's true.
So I feel like that kind of does bond them in a way.
And I mean, I don't know if this will land correctly in the way I put it, but they count their kills in battle. And I would say that before they actually start making that a competitive thing, like they made it seem like they did it on their own anyways. And I've never been in battle. Maybe I would do it if I was in battle. I don't know. But it's just something I feel like they were counting their kills before it became a competition, you know?
All right.
Differences. Let's talk about the most obvious one. One's a dwarf and one's an elf.
It's very true. Can't miss it. He's short. Legolas is really tall.
One has a really long beard and one is
Beautiful chiseled chin.
hair.
That bone structure, let me tell you.
I know.
Another one is Gimli is a great sprinter, which he makes it very clear to us. He's also much more of a close face fighter.
Yes.
And Legolas is more cross country and far distance fighter.
Yes, that's very true. They're definitely both, I'd say, like one of the best in their races as far as battle was concerned, right? Like,
yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I get, you know. I don't know that much about the other elves and dwarves of Middle-earth in the movies, but, you know.
Well, we know that Legolas is definitely trained because he's the Prince of Mirkwood.
Yeah.
So he's going to go out to battle right away before anyone.
Yeah.
Gimli, I know he's from a royal bloodline, but he's not a direct descendant.
He's got like 7 axes, so I mean, he's
Yeah.
got to be pretty great at battle and enjoy it if he has that many
Exactly.
things to carry around, in my opinion. But
Yeah, I don't think his pride would allow him to be like a bad warrior either.
yeah. A big difference I put was Legolas has all these elven qualities, you know. He can see far distances. He can, you know, kind of feel the changes in tide, you know, in battle and like, you know, when something evil is around. And he has extreme precision and agility, and he's immortal. Gimli he's short. He's a sprinter, like you said. He's good with axes. He's more in close fighting. But he doesn't have those like almost superhero-like qualities.
Oh, he's so emotional. He's a big hothead.
Yeah, that was
No
actually one of my
charisma.
other ones. It's like he's very hot-headed, and Legolas is pensive and
I feel like elves are more like
Stoic.
that. Yeah, and dwarves kind of let their emotions run them.
yeah, Gimli's very impulsive. Oh, I also think that Legolas is like the source of knowledge.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like there's always a source of knowledge in a friendship more than the other one, and I think Legolas is absolutely that one, obviously.
And I feel like Gimli's really open to it after a while. Like he wants to know more.
Yeah, I put he's always answering Gimli's questions. Gimli's like more lighthearted and comedic relief, and Legolas is just more like stoic and serious. He's like the heartthrob, you know? He's like the cutie pie. Although now that I'm older, I find that Aragorn is like the heartthrob now.
Oh, I know.
Is it just me? Am I just old now?
No, when I was watching it last week, I was just like, beautiful man.
Okay, so when we first watched this movie, when I was in junior high or high school, I think it was junior high when it came out, we were in love with Legolas, right? Like that was our age group thing. And my mother was in love with Aragorn. And I thought, Mom, what's like, he's not that cute. He's like dirty and like, he's kind of old, you know? And now I'm like, fuck, Aragorn's so hot. How did I ever not like him?
We are getting old, apparently.
I know.
We don't like the boys anymore. We like the men.
I know. It's weird. I'm like, oh God, now I like what my mom liked. All right, that's really all I have for differences, except the emotional difference between them, which we already talked about. So.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. All right, so pivotal plot points. I feel like at the council, that's when we first see a sign of how emotional Gimli is, and much more how Legolas is, you know, more composed, because Gimli is just like on him. He's like, you know, I'll die before I see the rings in the hand of the elf, or I suppose you think you're the one to do it. And Legolas just kind of gives him like a revolting look, but he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, and even for my very first one, I put like when they show them walking into or coming into Rivendell, you know, like before the council even happens, Legolas rides in on his horse and he's all like cute and agile and he's super confident, but Gimli comes like walking and looking concerned. So it's kind of like very accurate in how they are throughout the movie, you know?
Yeah, the actors did a really good
Gimli
job
wears
of
his
bringing that
emotions on his
entrance
face and Legolas does not. So.
Yeah. And I feel like we also see much Legolas does speak his mind, because you know, he tells Boromir to basically like shut up and sit down, because like the heir of Istiliador is here, and Aragorn's like, whoa buddy, thanks for having my back, but can you please sit down? And then he stands up again and he's like, did you not hear anything Lord Elrond said? Like, we have to destroy the ring. Yeah. But he's still ignoring Gimli every time.
I know.
No one trusts an elf. And you have my bow and my axe.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah.
They obviously were showing off what their really good fighter skills are.
Yeah.
So that could have been
like, that stupid bow, that doesn't do anything. Look at my axe.
Look at my axe.
Look at how big and powerful it is.
Right?
Like they're waving their dicks around.
Basically. So yeah, now they've joined the fellowship, and you know, in this situation, they've essentially both signed up for a life or death situation, and their motivation is simple. Like they're both there to protect the ring bearer and, you know, make sure Sauron goes down. So I think underneath that, you know, kind of starts to slowly bond them, because at that point they can't really be mad at each other. Like they work together.
Yeah, you know, now that you say that, I couldn't really figure out when I was, you know, doing these notes and watching the movie, like what was the real purpose of them even joining the fellowship. You know, no one makes them. It's just like they randomly kind of join. But it makes sense. They're more like the security, right? Like they're the ones keeping the hobbits safe, right? So like,
I didn't think about that.
They kind of have to partner. That's kind of their purpose. They're just like the Secret Service, just like clearing the space so that the hobbits can get through, you know? So that's kind of what they do.
That's amazing. More so back to like, you know, the history of the elves and the dwarves. When they arrive at Moria, it's really funny how the riddle is speak friend and enter, and the answer is friend and elvish. So it's like clearly these two races used to be friends at one point, because that was the whole point of the riddle, is like you can only enter if you're an elf because we're friends.
Which is really funny, because I've never picked up on that, and I've seen this movie how many times? I never thought, oh, that's weird that the Mines of Moria, run by dwarves, has an elvish entrance. Like I knew it, they say it, it's very obvious, and you can see the whole like letters light up around the thing, but I never realized like, oh, that's weird.
Like, yeah,
they hate each other, but
I didn't even know that there was like that deep of a hatred, and I always thought it was weird. I was like, but this is a dwarf house, like why would they have that?
It is odd.
Yeah. But then it's funny because when they go inside Moria, Gimli's like he calls him Master Elf, and he's all boasting about the great hospitality of dwarves, and he like, you know, really wants to show off what all the great things that dwarves can do to, you know, like really show his pride to Legolas.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to show the greatness of the dwarves. Like, hey, look at how fucking amazing this thing is that we built, you know? Like you weren't there for it. Or maybe they were a little bit, but like, look what we've done. It's so pretty, right? Like, isn't our house beautiful?
See, we're great.
Kind of a thing.
I don't know why you hate us, but we're awesome.
Yeah. And I also feel like he's just kind of trying to be like condescending when he says things like, master elf, you know?
Right.
Like, yeah.
He's like,
Oh, he's so fancy. Fancy boy.
Right. And then it's funny when they're crossing the bridge of Khazad-dûm. Legolas is like, I need to save your life. And Gimli's like, not the beard, not the beard. And Legolas is like, do you want to die? And he like grabs him by the beard and like wields him over. And so I kind of love that Legolas
he says, nobody tosses a dwarf, you know? But then he ends up having to grab him by the beard anyways, which I thought was pretty awesome. Because it's like he's trying to hold on his dignity, but he loses it anyways because he has to like save him grabbing his beard. So,
and I feel like that's kind of Legolas being like, dude, you don't have to have that around me. Like, I got your back. I'm not going to let you die.
Plot points before that, when they're in the Tomb of Balin, Legolas, like when they hear the orcs coming, you know, but they haven't like broken through the gate, there's like the tomb, right?
Yeah.
And Legolas stands in front of Gimli, which I had never noticed before, but as I was watching it this time, I was like, oh my god, he's standing in front of him. Is he protecting him, or is he just trying to be braver than him, is what I was wondering. I don't really know the answer to that, but that was something I like picked up on and thought about.
That's awesome, because I make a note later on where like all the ghosts are that like that army that owes their life to Aragorn.
Mountain of the Dead or whatever it's called.
Yeah. One of the ghosts gets like near Gimli and he gets all scared. He's like, Legolas! He's like expecting Legolas to protect him.
Yeah.
So I think that's like become a common thread now for them.
Yeah.
That like he knows Legolas will always save him.
Yeah, and I put down also that in, you know, once the orcs break into the Balin's tomb, there's a cave troll. And I put that Legolas saves Gimli from the cave troll. I don't remember exactly what happened because it's an action scene. I really don't like action scenes that much. So like I write it down as it happens. But if you ask me to repeat it, I can't really tell you. But obviously at some point Legolas saved Gimli in there. So he saved him twice in Moria.
That's so cute.
And it's like right away. That's like the first like major adventure that they have.
I like how Legolas is kind of taking this whole trip to be like, you know what, we're not that bad, Gimli. Like, I'm gonna show you. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm gonna show you my loyalty and
Yeah, I put that as their first sign potentially of friendship or caring, because he does save him. So I mean, he must care about him at least a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or doesn't want him to die for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think if he really hated him that much, he'd be like, yeah. When Gandalf dies, I thought it was really interesting how Aragorn specifically told Legolas and then Gimli to help the hobbits up. He doesn't ask Boromir to do this. I feel like that's Aragorn kind of seeing that Gimli and Legolas, they operate and they see death in a very different way than the men do in the hobbits. So I just felt like that was an interesting point that, you know, Legolas was even struggling to do that because the death was hitting him so much, and Gimli was struggling too. And this is together for the first time that we see them like have a death that really affects them. And like you said, Legolas is stoic, but he's still like, he can barely move.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even notice that.
And so it's like Aragorn almost forced them to continue to be strong warriors rather than like let them actually breathe in that moment.
It's funny too, you just said that and it like brought up something else that I didn't even pick up on until this moment, which is that neither Gimli nor Legolas ever seems to have any sort of connection or desire to the ring. You never see it, not once.
No, which is interesting because even Galadriel's weak to the ring.
Yeah, even, and I mean, you see it with Aragorn, you see it with Boromir,
Gandalf.
you see it with Sam, you know, and yeah, with Gandalf. You see it with a lot of people in a broad range of races, but you never really see it with Gimli or Legolas.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never thought about that.
I know. I don't know why. You just like brought it to my attention when you were talking.
And even
about
in the book, it's never a thing.
Yeah. I mean, they are just the security guards, right? So
yeah. They're like, we don't need the treasure. We're here to protect the treasure. So now they've entered Lothlorien, and, you know, Gimli's skeptical, and he's like, Galadriel's an evil witch elf, and Legolas is right there, and he's still insulting them, telling the hobbits to stay close to him, and he gets all cocky, and he's like, I can't be caught by an elf. I have the eyes of a hawk and ears of a fox, which is such a great line, because then immediately there's an elf right next to him. Yeah. And he's like, the dwarf breathes so loud that I could have shot him in the dark. And then when they arrive, you know, Legolas is really polite. Gimli does not like how much Elvish is being spoken.
Oh,
He calls the elf out. You know, he's like, maybe you could speak in a tongue that we could all understand. And Haldir's like, sorry, bro. Like, we haven't spoken dwarf since the Dark Ages. And then I wish, like, even when there's subtitles on, they don't tell you what Gimli's saying, because maybe he's not really saying anything, because it's like a made-up language. But he says something really rude in dwarf. Aragorn gets mad at him. And I think it has something to elude the drama between the two. So it's just interesting that, like, Gimli's been really cool with Legolas up to this point, but he's still gonna, like, insult his people in front of him. But then it's funny how,
he probably feels really outnumbered, too, when you think about it. Like, at least at Moria, he was, like, even though none of his people were there, right? Yeah. It was empty, but he was, like, in a place that he knew and understood. He felt comfortable there, whereas in Lothlorien, it's, like, all elves, you know, and he kind of knows that he's the only one there that they probably fucking hate. So
yeah. And it's funny, like he was all proud to show Legolas his home. Legolas didn't say anything. And the second they walk into Elf Town, he's like, fuck this shit.
Yeah. It's funny too because I didn't even pick up on any of that. I didn't put any of that in here. I didn't put anything until he's talking, or when he's infatuated with like Galadriel. Like when they leave Lothlorien, you know, he just has this like quiet infatuation with her, right? He's like, "Me 3 hairs from her golden head," and or you know, I asked for 1 and she gave me 3 or whatever. It's just so funny because he's just. It almost looks like when you meet a celebrity or something, right? You know, like you're just a little starry-eyed or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's interesting because I kind of think she's like the first elf that is ever nice to him.
Yeah.
Maybe that just like gets to him. He's like, oh my God.
Well,
they
and
can be nice, you know?
It's funny because when she's nice to him, it's the first time Legolas makes a dig at Gimli.
Really?
Because Legolas...
What does he say?
Legolas tells Galadriel, we went needless into Moria.
Oh.
And it was Gimli's choice. I mean, he suggested it to Frodo, and had it not been suggested, they wouldn't have went. And so you just see, like, that moment. I'd never noticed it before. Like, Gimli probably feels guilty. And then that's when Galadriel says, like, Gandalf, you know, he never does anything needlessly. You know, he always has a purpose. I feel like that was a really, like you said, it was one time an elf was really nice and kind to him.
Yeah, it was really cute. I mean, it was almost like when a kid is, like, bullied at school or something, you know? And it's like, oh my God, this person was nice to me. I forgot what that feels like, you know? It's cute. And I think it kind of like quells his suspicions about elves a little bit, you know? Like, oh my God, they can be nice. And you notice after that, by the way, they share a boat. So, I mean, that like starts their whole sharing boats and sharing horses and everything they share now together.
Legolas, we start to now see like how death affects him, because with the elves make a lament for Gandalf, and he says the grief is too near for him to talk about it. And I'm just like, whoa, buddy, you've been fine up until this point and you can't even tell like the hobbits what the song means. And so I feel like this is an insight just to how heavily death affects elves, even though they don't show it. It's really interesting because they live for so long, you know, they have this detachment, but then when it happens, I feel like it's like so much stronger.
They probably like compartmentalize it.
And then like you said with the boat, I don't know if you saw this, but Legolas actually helps Gimli into the boat and he kindly accepts.
Aww. That's because they're like friends, you know? Aragorn's that friend and they're just like the side friends, you know? Like,
yeah, like you said, I like how Legolas, you know, well, first Gimli's talking about, you know, just how wonderful Galadriel was to him. And Legolas is like, well, what did you ask for? And Gimli says, I asked for 3 hairs off her head and she gave it to me. Legolas just smiles. He's like, Like in that moment they both shared like how beautiful the elves are together.
It's like they're in this like trance, I swear. It's
yeah.
Like, oh, it's like they just got out of the spa or something, you know? They're like, oh, it's just so nice. It's been such a beautiful day.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and
it's just so calm.
I just really love that Legolas didn't judge him for that, you know, because Gimli was obviously super bashful about it. And I just feel like, you know, that's what a good friend does. When they see something's really important to you, they don't tease you.
Yeah.
So the next one is that they both agree to keep the bond of the Fellowship to find Merry and Pippin, you know.
Oh, that was mine too.
Yeah. Because it's like they could have just walked away at that point.
Yeah.
The ring bearer's gone. That was their whole purpose. So it's a big deal that they continue to stay in that bond with Aragorn.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the ring is gone, and yeah, that was the whole reason that Fellowship started. But at the same time, at least those 3, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, they're security, right? They're supposed to keep everybody safe. And those 2 hobbits just got kidnapped. Like, you can't just be like, well, like, I'm going to go home now.
Under
like,
their watch.
Yeah, like, I'm going to go home now. Like, Aragorn suggests hunting some orc, and they're, like, super stoked. They're like, yeah, let's fucking do this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I think they both care about the hobbits, too, you know? Like, especially, I mean, Gimli, like, shows it a little bit more, you know? Like, you can tell he cares about them, but I think Legolas does, too. He's more stoic. He doesn't show his emotions like Gimli does. So.
Yeah, and that's what I put. They've all become so deep in this bond that they have with each other in The Hobbit. Like you said, they actually all care about each other now. It wasn't just like they were enlisted and have to follow through with this mission against their will.
Yeah, and I mean, it's even when you do go to like war or battle, you would never like leave people behind, right? Like, oh, they got captured. Oh, well. Yeah, I'm just gonna go home now because my mission's done, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Of course they're gonna go after them and try and find them. And the best like little montage is when they're like running cross country and Gimli tries to keep up with Legolas, but he's just like huffing and puffing, but he's like determined not to show his weakness. But
and I love Legolas is lying. So he's like, come Gimli, we're gaining on them. It's like to say that, like, come Gimli, like
like a dog.
I feel like Legolas knows that he's struggling and he's like, come on, you slowpoke, we're gonna be fine, we gotta do this. Like
He's like that really annoying personal trainer. Come on, like we're not done yet. Let's keep going.
Like he can feel the pain that Gimli is sharing, and he's just like, come on. And then I don't know if this was your next moment, but it's when they're confronted by the Rohirrim.
Rohirrim, yep.
I love how Gimli gives a bit of sass to Éomer, and Éomer jumps off the horse and insults Gimli specifically about his height, so about his race.
Yeah.
Legolas immediately pulls out his bow and arrow, aiming it directly.
Threatens him.
Have the line. He's like, he would die before your stroke fell. Mm-hmm. And it's like, here we see Legolas showing off his ego and his skills towards another race, defending his friend who was made fun of for his race. That's a lot happening right there. It's similar to how Legolas defends Aragorn at the council against Boromir, because I forget exactly what Boromir.
Oh, you're talking when the Fellowship forms.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I feel like, and also in this moment when Legolas gets too hyped up on his like defense for loyalty for his friends, Aragorn stops him again, just like he did, at the council. So like, I feel like Aragorn, like you said, he's a really good balance between the two.
Yeah.
He helps keep their emotions in check.
He does act like a king. Like he knows when to shut them up,
Yeah.
But that's a good point that you just came across that we didn't include in the similarities, is that Gimli and Legolas are both very loyal friends.
Yeah.
Like very loyal. Once you're their friends, they will protect you till the end. And when they do actually become friends, that's what happens. Like this. It was really cute. That was like one of my main things. He's like protecting his friends. BFFs now.
Right. And this is just like a side note that I, as an actor, had to admire. Éomer's speech about the White Wizard, who he says walks here and there, so fucking good. Oh, he's just such a good actor.
He is.
I really loved that little speech.
He's in something else that I just watched, and I was thinking about it, but never mind. I can't even think of what it is now, but
that's fair.
I was like, just saw him and I was thinking, God, I loved him in that. And I love him in Lord of the Rings. He's awesome.
He's a great actor. And then when they ask about the hobbits, and Éomer says they killed everyone, and Gimli says dead, and he's really scared, Legolas puts his arm around Gimli.
I know.
And I feel like that's to console him, but maybe he's also consoling himself. And this isn't the first time that they've lost someone from the Fellowship together. And I just think it's so sweet that he's like...
It is really cute. I put that they're sharing emotion and they're being vulnerable. Like, it's really cute because you don't really see that between them up until that point. And it is adorable. So when I really liked, by the way, this is after that, when they enter Fangorn Forest and Gimli is just like terrified, man. He's like, I don't know if he's just like, doesn't like forests, but Legolas is obviously from a forest. So he's like totally at home and cool and whatever. But it's just so funny to see how terrified Gimli is.
Yeah.
It's cute. But he follows him in anyway, so.
The trees are talking, and Legolas says that. And Aragorn tells him to lower his axe. And Gimli's like, oh, you're right. And Legolas tells him they have feelings and that the elves woke him up and taught them to speak. And Gimli's like, what do they have to talk about? And it's like, we know Gimli loves the earth, because it brings him treasure and, they mine and everything. But I feel like he's never looked at the earth from the perspective of being an actual live being that talks and, has a mind. And so I feel like Legolas is also, as a friend, teaching him more about the earth. And, Legolas tells them that like they have feelings. And it's also cute because his line is actually, they have feelings, my friend. And it's interesting because he's being respectful to Gimli in that moment, not like calling him out, being like, you're such an idiot. They have feelings, It was a very kind moment of how he shared that, and he also called him my friend.
I like that. I didn't realize, by the way, but you made a good point that like dwarves really do see the earth to mine, to harvest,
to benefit
it provides stuff for them, right? They don't view it necessarily as a living, breathing thing, which is much more what elves do. If you look at like the way elves live and the way like they have their buildings around trees or are incorporated into trees and rivers and things like that, they really build their lives around the earth, whereas dwarves like build within the earth. They view it more as a tool. My next one is actually a little bit later. It's when Aragorn falls off the cliff.
Oh my god.
And like almost kind of dies, like we think he dies, but we don't know yet,
Yeah.
And it just brings Gimli and Legolas closer together because they think they just like lost their friend. And quite honestly, it's almost like that awkward trio friendship where the two outer friends were really just there for the main friend, right? Well, the main friend just died. Now they have to find this connection with each other now that he's not there anymore. And
they both get like super hyper intense on that goblin. Gimli threatens him, and then Legolas comes up and like grabs him, by the chest. Mm-hmm. So we see a lot of their loyalty there. Cute little moments before that when they're doing their competition. Who kills the most?
Oh yeah. Wait, that's not before that.
No,
you're talking about at Helm's Deep?
Oh no, I'm at the moment before Helm's Deep when the wargs attack them. as they're on their way to Helm's Deep.
Okay, so right before Aragorn goes off the cliff.
Right before he goes off the cliff. So there's a warg charging red at Gimli, and he's like, bring your pretty face to my pretty act. And the warg is like almost about to hit him, and Legolas shoots the arrow, taking the warg down, which is another moment
and
of
then
him.
it falls on him.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which is another moment of him saving Gimli. But Gimli's like, that one counts as mine, because he was about to do it, but he doesn't have like a long, form weapon to take it out. I just thought that was really, really cute.
Yeah, that is cute.
Okay, so then when they do get to Helm's Deep, and this is after, they thought Aragorn died, we see Gimli be emotional with Aragorn returning, and we see Legolas being very controlled.
I didn't put that in mind. I don't remember. You have to describe it more to me.
So Aragorn returns, and Gimli goes up to Aragorn, and he basically says how much of a wonderful and like stupid man he is.
It's like, you're a beautiful something or other, right?
And he like wants to cry, and then he goes up to Legolas, and Legolas is just like, you're late and you look terrible.
Yeah.
And I made a note, elves are really careful to attach themselves to humans because
They die.
Yeah, they die sooner, and so it's really upsetting for them. And so that's kind of why I feel like he sort of handled it that way in that moment. It's like, I can't handle all this emotion.
Yeah, you're too likely to die. I can't really be that close to you.
Yeah.
Before the Battle of Helm's Deep is happening, Legolas is really pushing Aragorn about who's fighting. He's like, look around. These aren't soldiers. These are like little kids and old dudes that have never picked up a bow or a sword or whatever in their whole life. And he's really like kind of almost nagging at Aragorn, and you could see Aragorn's just getting like more and more annoyed. Like, well, what the fuck? We have to fight. I don't know what you want me to do about it, kind of thing. He's basically almost pushing him to breaking, and Gimli like pulls Legolas aside and advises him, just like, let him be, dude. Like, just let him be. He needs to cool off. Like he's like being the mediator in between them. They're like having a little moment. It was cute.
Yeah, and I put a note that, that's what a friend does. They're able to be objective for you when you're going through something. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that you brought that up, because right before that, Gimli is expressing to Theoden that this is going to be a really tough fight for them, and they've never fought against orcs. So him
Uruk-hai, isn't it Uruk?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Uruk-hai. And they're different than orcs and goblins. Really interesting to see that Gimli and Legolas are on the same page about how like this fight is hopeless.
Mm-hmm. My like next one is like the really cute scene where they're lined up for battle for Helm's Deep, and Legolas. This is how I put it. Legolas picked a shitty place for them to stand, so Gimli can't see over the wall. So Legolas like either offers to describe him the scene, or he can get him a stool. And I was like, oh, it's really cute. And he's like being a friend, like, well, what can I do to help you? Even though it's pretty funny. Like you could tell he's like holding back. Like he thinks it's hilarious. But I could do this for you, or I could do this for you. What do you want? But.
Yeah, and it's funny because Gimli gives him a look, and then he just starts laughing in a very like loving laugh. And this is actually one of my favorite moments, because I feel like it really shows that these two are like really in a true friendship now, because they can poke fun at each other's attributes, whether it's like an emotional or physical one, and they know it's not like a jab. It's coming from a very loving place.
I mean, yeah, because technically Gimli's making fun of his own height too. He's like, well, I can't see over this wall. Like,
yeah, it was. He kind of let his pride go in that moment.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite exchanges between them.
And then it's so funny when they start fighting in battle, and Gimli's all proud, and he's like, Legolas, I have 2 already.
Yeah.
And Legolas just smiles back, and he's like, very matter-of-factly, I'm on 17.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I won't have a pointy-eared outscoring me. And then Legolas yells back, 19. And I just think at this point, and I wrote in my notes, I was very proud of myself, no pun intended.
What?
The pointy-eared joke right before.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm lame. At this point, these two they're having fun in the fact that their people have hated each other for so many years. And, they're poking fun at each other's races while they both try and have fun in a very scary and pretty much impossible battle that everyone is absolutely positive they won't survive.
Yeah, quite honestly, if I was in a battle like that where I thought I was going to lose, like I would want to be laughing too, and having something to share with somebody else in those final moments. So it's really cute because, I don't know, it's just cute. They're like keeping track, bringing out the best in each other, and then they argue over the final score at the end. It's cute.
Oh yeah, I made a note of that. Oh, well, hold on. So I think the moment before they keep track of their score at the end is when King Theoden, he tells Aragorn, can you guys hold me some time? So they go down there, and Gimli tells Aragorn to toss him. And Aragorn's like, you did not just fucking say that to me.
I know.
And Gimli's like, God, don't make me say it again. He's like, just do it. But right before he's
cannot make the distance, you're going to have to toss me.
And then right before he's like, wait, don't tell the elf.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's also such a cute moment in their friendship because, you know, he's letting his guard down with Legolas at this point, but he still wants to keep like some of his pride.
Yeah.
And he's like, be a good friend, Aragorn. Like, don't do this.
But he's putting his pride aside. It's cute. I love that scene.
You know,
it's
to take
really
care of
cute.
his friends. It's really cute. So here's the point where they're telling each other about the final score. And I like this moment because Legolas is feeling up his bow in the shot when he's telling him his score.
And this is not on the original cut. This is the extended cut, right?
I don't know the difference between them anymore because we only watch the extended.
Yeah, I know. I only watched the extended, but I'm pretty, I don't know. For some reason, I have a mind that remembers the scenes that were not originally in it. And I swear to God, this one was not originally in it.
So people
because he has like the axe and the thing and he's wiggling, and I swear that was not in the original, the theatrical one.
Probably could have been too gory or in some way. But so I think it's so funny that Legolas is filling up his bow. You know, we finally get to see more of like his ego and pride come out. And Gimli tells him, you know, not bad for a spoiled prince elf. And then Gimli's like, I'm sitting on number 43 right now, and it twitches. So Legolas is like, fuck you, and he shoots an arrow, and then he says 43, and then Gimli, you know, explains it was in his nervous system. And so I'm just glad they've found a healthy way at this point to deal with their differences and still be proud of their race without hating on each other, but making it sort of like this
healthy competition.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they go back to Rohan, kind of to celebrate, I guess, and regroup, really, right? Because like, you know, Helm's Deep is over. And
real quick,
what?
There's a moment in the book that doesn't exist in the movies.
Okay.
And it's also a really cute thing about their friendship. At Helm's Deep, Gimli's like down in the caverns. So that's where the women and children are. But the women and children have gotten out. So now he's fighting Uruk-hai in there.
Oh,
and
okay.
he tells Legolas later how beautiful these caverns are. He's never seen such things. He didn't know men could make such beautiful caverns.
That's cute.
And he really wants to take Legolas back if they survive this. And he asks Legolas if he will come. And he's like, I'd be glad to.
That's cute.
So then this I remember is an added scene when the Uruk-hais get eaten by Fingorn Forest. Legolas tells Gimli how he would love to take him into Fingorn and learn more about it and go back to it.
In the book. He doesn't say that
in the book.
Right. Okay.
And so it's cute that like they both want to share each other's hobbies with each other and they both like kindly accept.
That's adorable.
Sorry.
Okay. I like that because I would have never known that 'cause I never got through. No, I mean, I did get through the two towers, but I have no recollection.
It was a while ago.
It was like 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, so your next point. They are back at Rohan after the Battle of Helm's Deep.
I guess they're regrouping, but they're also kind of celebrating, right? So
yeah, it was a victory.
Legolas and Gimli decide to play a drinking game, which clearly, by the way, like Gimli proposes because he like finally wants to beat Legolas at something, and this is something he thinks he can beat him at. And quite honestly, like if I was in that room too, and just the basic knowledge that I know about elves and dwarves, I just based on like stature and like girth and things like that, I would think that Gimli could probably drink Legolas under the table too. Just like, you know, he's a big burly dude. Of course he can. You know? But anyways, obviously Gimli loses. But I don't know. It was cute because he really thought he could win. And Legolas just like doesn't even make it. He's just like, oh, I kind of feel something. I just thought it was so cute when like Gimli like falls on the floor, like clearly passes out. And Legolas like, I feel a little tingly. Yeah. You know, like, just a little bit.
And Aramir's just looking at him like, you're seriously not drunk?
And,
you're just tipsy? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. And by the way, like watching Gimli get drunk was like the funniest thing ever because it is totally accurate to people I've seen get drunk, where it's like you just start out having fun and you're giggling, and then like slowly you just get like more and more sloppy and we can't understand what you're saying, and then you go like cross-eyed, and then you just like fall on the floor and just like pass out.
His crazy drunk laugh was great. And then
he's talking about little hairy women, stuff like that. It's like, okay, keep that kind of stuff to yourself, man.
Yeah, I like when they go to the caves where the men of the mountains are, and Legolas can see the ghost, and Gimli stops for a moment and they're gone. And then he calls out Legolas' name because he gets scared running after him.
That's mine too.
Yeah,
that's
like
my next one.
At this point, he really does trust Legolas as an elf, and he knows that he has the skills to protect him. And I feel like that's a huge step for Gimli and his pride.
He is like, it's funny too, because you can tell Gimli is like seriously afraid of ghosts. Like he is so afraid. Legolas, where are you?
Yeah,
I'm coming after you. Don't leave me behind. It's like so cute.
And then I'm only noticing this now as I look at my notes because you brought it up about how, you know, Legolas is always saving Gimli. As the skulls are falling down on them, Legolas pulls Gimli to put him in front of him so he doesn't fall behind.
Oh yeah, that was my very next one.
Yeah,
I put that on there. He is a short little guy. I mean, he could totally just get like,
he's stumpy.
I mean, it's like that's, by the way, fucking weird sequence of events events. And I feel like a lot of that was not in the original theatrical version. But yeah, the avalanche skull thing was fucking weird. Like rewatching it again, I'm like, oh, this is creepy. This is hardcore.
It's interesting how they did it because that's not really how it happens in the books. Like there's people that actually do live there. So they go through like this weird village. They go through a couple of them. And then when they finally do get to I don't remember if they're actually ghosts at that point. I think they're still men that have just been forced to live forever.
So, but they still can't die, right? Because that's like the whole reason they're like the best fucking army is because they can't die.
Yeah.
So they're just like cursed men. So they look. So it's almost like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, they were like that.
Oh my god, it's like a crossover. They look like humans in daylight.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, but
in nighttime. No, in daylight, and then when the moon hits them, they turn to ghosts. But that's in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So,
But it would have been cool. Like, obviously, the movie would have been another hour longer.
Yeah.
It's already really long. But it would have been cool to see, like, the villages, because there were a lot of creepy people that lived in those villages in the mountains. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I did really enjoy that sequence, though. It was very creepy. Just the whole, like, walking into the little crack of the mountain and then, like, going through the little maze and getting kind of lost and then going inside. And, yeah.
It was fun because it felt like the genre changed and became a horror, but it worked with the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Well, you know, because PJ is good at that kind of stuff. Like,
that's what he started in.
Bread and butter horror, like little kid horror. Or,
like,
what's it called? Like campy horror, kind of, kind of gory, even though there's no gore in this particular part. But it's very, actually, now that we're talking about this, very true to him because it's like creepy and it does have that horror feel, but there are some funny parts, you know, like when, I can't remember exactly what is said, but the ghost, some kind of funny exchange happens with the ghost and them and the king. I don't remember his name, whatever his name is.
Just to give you some perspective.
Yeah.
Legolas is 2,000.
Holy shit.
931 years old at the time of Lord of the Rings.
Jesus.
He was born TA 87.
TA.
I don't know. It's probably the name of an age.
The something age.
Coincidentally, Aragorn was born during the year of 2,931 in the Third Age. So I'm like, how does that make sense? Oh, maybe that was the first war. Oh.
They say Aragorn says how old he is in the movie.
He's 87. I don't know. He's really fucking old. So.
Yeah.
Anyways. I just was looking that up while
They have like unnaturally long life, like what, to like 150 or something?
Yeah.
200 maybe.
Which is why, Elrond was so scared of Arwen staying.
Yeah. And remember, Aragorn like talks about how he went to ride into battle with King Theoden's dad, like that's how old he is. That's how the whole subject comes about. He's not talking about it with Theoden. He's talking about it with Éowyn, isn't he?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Éowyn.
Yeah. So we have when the pirates show up.
Oh, yeah.
When they come out of the Mountain of the Dead, I think it's called. Yeah, Mountain of the Dead. The pirates show up. Legolas, like, goes to fire, I think, like, a warning shot. Gimli, like, fucks with him and makes him accidentally shoot someone. Quite honestly, like, I don't really have anything to go along with that. Like, hey, whatever. But it's just, like, a weird moment. I'm like, why did you do that?
I was struggling to put that moment into words, which is why it's not in my notes. Because it's very interesting because, obviously, Aragorn orders him to do a warning shot. And then Gimli says, like, mind your arrow or something. And then you're right, he pulls his bow back.
Maybe he's trying to make it where the ghosts come out of the mountain, because that's what draws them out, right? Like, they do come out and then end up fighting those pirates and helping them.
But how would he know that?
I don't know how. I don't know why. I'm just
PJ, it's a weird moment. Explain it to us.
That's why it's all, like, extra shit that was not in the theatrical one.
It's, like, the only one that I think I have an issue with. But it was cool seeing them bring the men to the boat and have that happen.
Yeah.
Because it's a good, like, transitional scene. Just the thing that Gimli and Legolas do is weird.
I think, okay. Yes, I don't know exactly why that happens, but I think the whole reason that scene happens is because they want to show what the army of the dead can do and why they're so important, because they just take out that ship like nothing, Or
maybe PJ did it because he wanted the audience to see him die, because that was his
maybe
cameo.
I know. I don't know. Maybe he's like, I want to die on screen.
Right.
Yeah. When they arrive to battle by ship, Gimli says to Legolas, "There's plenty for the both of us. May the best dwarf win."
I forgot.
And I was
about
like,
that.
so cute, because it's showing his confidence. He's like, dude, I got this. I'm gonna win. It's not even like a elf versus dwarf thing. I'm gonna win kind of thing. So it's cute, and it just leads them to counting their kills again as they fight, which is awesome. Because then, like, you know, Legolas brings down the Oliphants, and Gimli's like, that still only counts as one, even though there's like 20 people on there, you know. And it like he doesn't just bring down the one; it like takes down one that hits another, and yeah. Anyways,
and Gimli's so upset because he can't do that. He's
clearly jealous of Legolas's skills.
Yeah,
yeah, that was cute. My very last one for them. And what's funny is I wrote this, but I have no context. It doesn't say what happened. It's just a quote. Dying side by side with a friend. At some point, one of them says that, obviously.
Okay, I got you. So that's my last one.
Do you have that? Okay.
Okay. So this is when they arrive to do like the distraction battle at the Black Gates.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
And Aragorn's like, we're going to fucking fight you to that nasty guy who's like, you know, the megaphone for Sauron. And he's like,
yeah, with the weird,
his teeth.
Creepy teeth.
Yeah. And Gimli says...
Mouth. Isn't he the mouth or something?
Yeah, it's explained in the
book.
book.
Mouth of Mordor or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, anyways.
It's complex. I don't really understand it. But so Gimli says to Legolas, you know, because he's still trying to be, you know, cute about his pride. And he's like, never thought I'd die by the side of an elf. And then Legolas just, he's so good. He says, what about side by side with a friend? Aww. And Gimli gets all teary-eyed and choked up. And he's like, I could do that. And it's just like, oh. And I just feel like that's the official like solidification of their friendship. And, you know, it's most likely the end and everything they've been through. They come out on the other side with friendship past everything their races have felt for each other over history and centuries. And, you know, the journey's bonded them for life.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really cute moment. It was supposed to be like a tearjerker moment. It was
yeah.
Cute. I think it probably would do that to me if I hadn't seen it so many times and know that they don't die. But like, you know, I already know how it's going to come, how the outcome is. So yeah. I'm like,
I think I get more like choked up just from like the performance of the actor who plays Gimli. He does such a good job.
Oh shit, I was gonna throw that out way earlier when we were talking about Gimli being afraid of forests. That's really fucking ironic because John Rhys Davies,
yeah, good job, I forgot,
plays the Ent. He plays Treebeard, you know? Like, how ironic that he's, like, afraid of forests, even though they don't, like, really... I mean, they show him being afraid to go into the forest, but they don't specifically say that he's, like, afraid of all forests or anything.
He's just mocking them. He's like, what do they have to talk about? Don't fucking kill me, please.
It's, like, really ironic, though, that he ends up playing one, so... Yeah. Not that... I mean, most people don't know that. When I watched it with my husband, I told him that. I was like, hey, you know that's, like, that guy playing that guy, right? Like, do you hear the... Because you can kind of hear the voice if you know John Rhys Davies well enough, and I fucking love him. I mean, he was...
Your husband would, because he's a big Indiana Jones fan.
Oh, yeah. And we used to, you know, go ride that ride at Disneyland all the time, and, like, you get to see him on screen. You know, it has the little clips of him. He, like, does the, you know, make sure you buckle up in your seat and all that shit, you know.
He's such a good voice actor.
Yeah, I love him. Legolas is, like, very stoic and prideful, but he doesn't, if you notice, especially in the beginning, he's not really one to, like, come out and be overtly rude or prideful. He's a very humble guy, you know? So whenever Gimli comes at him with stuff, that's really when he comes back with his, you know, I'm a superior race, or you're just a dwarf kind of a thing. So he's not, like, one that's really all about race, you know? At least not upfront about it anyways. But as Gimli, like, eggs him on, Legolas feels the need to defend himself and show that he's the superior race, you know? It's like that, it's almost like male bonding, you know? Like, that's just what they do. They're just swinging their dicks around like, hey, I can do this. Well, I can do this, you know?
Yeah, like they're in the gym powerlifting, competing with each other.
Totally. Oh, I put that Legolas was like a really great example of a loyal friend to Aragorn and Gimli. I would say that his only arc he really experiences is on his view of dwarves. You know, like he doesn't, you know, Legolas is 2,000 years old. He's not going to make a huge, I'd say, leap as far as his character goes. In, you know, this short, what's it, like a year? Or maybe a year and I think it's, because remember at the very end, Frodo's like, it's been 16 months to the day since Weathertop or whatever he says. And so it's like, you know, I think the journey's like about a year or something. You know, he's not going to make that big of a leap, you know, as far as a character goes, but his view on dwarves change, I think, and he comes to respect them more, you know.
6 months.
It's only, so he's not, you know, he's already lived 2,000 years. He's not going to change that much over 6 months. I would say his only major arc is that his view is changing with how he regards dwarves, you know.
Yeah.
He sees them, I think now towards the end, he realizes that they're like a hearty people with big hearts and they like to laugh and they're, they're loyal. And he has at least one good, dwarf friend, and maybe that'll make him not be prejudiced against other ones. That's what I'd say for Legolas anyways.
Legolas, yeah, like you said, I feel like this is just a point for him. Like he's left his palace. He's not the prince right now. He's kind of on a mission for his kingdom, and I think he was just, intending to be there to do this deed because, elves have been around for so long. And even like when Haldir comes to Helm's Deep and he says, there was a time when elves and men fought against each other during the first war and we're here to do it again. So yeah, elves kind of like pick up the slack for everything. So I feel like for Legolas, this was really just another mission in his very long life to do. Yeah. And I agree with you. It was more just, he gained a friend out of it. And I think that was the last thing he expected, especially from someone that, he's been taught to hate because of all the drama that they've had together. And I think this was a really big lesson for Legolas in friendship because he also, him and Aragorn have their, ups and downs and their different opinions about things. I feel like for Legolas, this was an opportunity for him to sort of let go some of his like elfness and just be a man in all this and, be there for his friends, kind of ignore anything that he thinks. Cause, he's, like you said, he's getting down Aragorn's throat about like, is this battle going to happen? Yeah. And him and Gimli didn't have to become friends or bond, but he decided that he was in it. Like he's there to save the hobbits, he's there to do whatever he can to help Frodo. Why not have fun and actually get close to people when they're very unlikely for him?
Yeah, I'd say he came out of it not being afraid to show as much emotion. Yeah, I'd say,
maybe that's,
he gained a loyal friend.
He's willing to be emotional now, to an extent. He's not gonna
cry all the time or anything. He's not afraid. Like he can joke around and stuff more. Like, did you ever see him do that before? Like, could you ever even imagine him doing that before? Like, yeah, I can't. And honestly, I can't even imagine him joking around with anybody else except Gimli. Really, like it doesn't really like maybe a little bit with Aragorn. You can't imagine him like joking around with his elven friends.
Yeah, stuff, like so. He's still very subtle with Aragorn when he jokes with him, and he's much more of a dweeb with Gimli.
Yeah, well, I also think with him and with Legolas and Aragorn, there's this like hierarchy, like he knows that Aragorn should be king, and I think he treats him like that, So there's always this like bit of respect. Yes, Legolas might be older, might be wiser, but at the end of the day, Aragorn is the leader of their little group, as well as supposed to be the leader of the whole Middle Earth, anyways. So
which I think comes from Legolas being wiser. Like he sees that and he respects that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd follow Aragorn into any battle, really.
What about for Gimli?
For Gimli, I put it that he's a very proud dwarf, which is obvious, and he's unafraid to voice his opinion on anything. He's clearly an accomplished warrior of the dwarves, and I kind of got the vibe like he joined the Fellowship to kind of get the dwarves like a stake in the glory, like to be a part of the story that happens, because otherwise, like why the fuck was he even there, Like, well, it's not like he was going to carry it himself.
True, but he also, like, as we found out, he wanted to go on the Hobbit mission, and he wasn't allowed to.
Right? See, I think he just wants to be a part of the story. He wants to be like, he wants that like stake in the glory
it's
that
his
could
pride
come kind of thing, Yeah, like he wants the dwarves represented. I don't blame him for that,
Yeah.
If I was a, I guess I am a minority in the fact that I'm a female, right? So I already have those feminist thoughts. But like, if I was a minority, like a dwarf, of course I'd want to be a part of it, and I'd want dwarves to be in the story, Like, hey, it's not just men and elves and hobbits that can do this. Dwarves just weren't involved. No, I would want them to be involved too. I'd want to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's actually a big thing, like Merry and Pippin. Equal. Yeah, Merry and Pippin want their voice heard. Éowyn as a woman wants her voice heard. Gimli does. Yeah, there's a lot of people looking for their voice to be heard.
Yeah, Middle Earth is a great example. Is a lot of fucking dudes. A lot of dudes, right? And there are a lot of races, but men are the end all be all kind of, because obviously the race of man is king.
Yeah, because that's also like, the elves, they go off to the Undying Lands. They know there's no purpose for them on Earth anymore.
Yeah, and so dwarves are a minority in that sense, and if I was him, I'd want to be involved if I could too. Like, it's going to be some epic journey. Why wouldn't you want to be on it, I put that he was like immediately threatened by the superior races around him, especially elves, which I think is why he's like constantly antagonizing Legolas and bringing out these conflicts kind of between them. But at the end of the day, I think everything that he does is like good-natured. Is Gimli really like a douchebag? No, he's a nice guy. Everything he does has like good-natured qualities behind it. He's like half the time he's just joking speaking or defending himself. And I mean, Gimli's always the comedic relief. Like, he's a kind-hearted person. He's not a mean guy. He has all these experiences with Legolas. I think he realizes that it's okay to have an elf on his side, you know, and that it actually benefits him. It helped him more than hindered him, you know. He saved his life how many times on this?
So much.
So many times. I put that he seems the type that can't really see the bad in people, but I don't know about that, because I feel like when you're a minority and all these people are constantly coming at you, you do get the vibe like people are mean, you know? I would.
Yeah.
If I was constantly having to defend myself, you know? So I take that back, that thing about he doesn't see bad in people, because I kind of think he has to.
That's why he was like you said, he was a dick to Haldir, because he was just like, hello, none of us know what you're saying. Can you speak for everyone? Yeah, I feel like for Gimli, this was a great journey for him to, get rid of some of his pride and, become more accepting of others around him. And also know that he doesn't always have to be like this strong, great, proud warrior. Like you said, he accepts and allows Legolas to save him all the time. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he lets himself be goofy and bashful with Legolas, and he also allows Aragorn to toss him in order to save men. So he obviously is letting go of his pride for that, which we've learned throughout the film is like a big deal for him, and he doesn't want to do that. His relationship with Legolas really helped him to become more humble and authentic and just more himself, and not worry about what other people think of him or the dwarven race.
Yeah, it's funny that you said the pride, because I came to this epiphany when I was finishing up these notes the other night, that this is going to be like my final summary, but it's like the male version of Pride and Prejudice, right?
That's funny.
Like, one's prideful, one's prejudiced, technically, or they could both have some of each, right? Minus the being in love part, because they're not in love with each other. But it's just like...
That's Frodo and Sam.
Yeah. But like, one's prideful, one's prejudiced, and they have to like put that aside and they end up becoming true friends,
Yeah, that's a good point.
You said it earlier. It's a friendship that's born out of finding differences in each other, but they learn to accept them for those differences.
Yeah.
That's like what their whole thing is about. And I also equated it, by the way, to teammates on a sporting team, right? They want to be the best no matter what. Of course, they want the team to win, but if they could be the star player, they would be, kind of a thing. Like, that's kind of the vibe you get. Like, it's very male competitiveness, Like,
well, it's funny you say that, because I'm reading this book by Brene Brown. It's called Braving the Wilderness. And one of the things she's talking about is... The whole point of the book is about speaking out and listening to others who have different viewpoints as you, and also creating safety environments for people who would normally be competitive. And how do you do that? And she interviews a coach of a football team. And she's like, how do you, keep it a safe environment, rather than, the typical, like, well, if you're not on our side, then you're the enemy, basically. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how it's actually important to celebrate everyone's uniqueness, and that's what brings them together. So it's funny you mentioned it's similar to a sports team, because that's what the coaches do and make sure everyone bonds and sticks together. It's like your differences are what make you unique, and that's what should bond you also. Yeah.
I've been on many a sporting team, and like, you have the really good players, you have the really bad players. But bottom line, like, I think anybody that's on a sports team kind of wishes that they could be that star player, unless they've been forced on the team by like their parents or something. Because a lot of that happened on the teams I was on too. But at the end of the day, they just want to win, right? Like, at the end of the day, you're on a team, you want to win. You want the best for everybody on that team, really. You should.
Yeah, and everyone brings a different attribute to the table, because, the best player of the team, they're best at something very specific, and the person who feels they're not that good, maybe they have a really good defense that's super basic, but the player who's doing offense all the time, that's not something they can naturally do. Mm-hmm.
They're kind of, and I'd also just like to say that they're kind of also like a bromance, right? Like, they constantly want to one-up each other, almost like a Joey and Chandler situation, Like, they, at the end of the day, they do, like, love each other.
Yeah, so I guess what I learned